Hey, so I'm Ellen.
I'm Katie.
And we are the guests on this podcast. And we did this under our old name.
Yes.
So you will be hearing us refer to ourselves as Just Keep Rolling. It was actually a conversation following the recording of this episode that made us decide the time has come to change our name.
Yeah. It was really past time, but you know what? Better late than never.
Right. So you're going to hear Just Keep Rolling on this, but just know that from this moment on, we are known as For Fawkes Sake.
Mm-hmm.
It was really important for us to change the name because we do not agree or condone the creators' ignorant views, and we stand with the trans community.
Yes. We want everyone to feel welcome and appreciated and accepted with us.
And to feel like they have a safe space within this fandom.
Mm-hmm. Because they do, and it's with us.
And other amazing Harry Potter podcasts like Belated Binge. Yay! So, Ellen and Katie, For Fawkes Sake, a Harry Potter book movie compare and contrast podcast. Thanks for listening, and we hope you come find us too.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. Harry woke up on Sunday morning to find the dormitory blazing with winter sunlight and his arms reboned but stiff. He sat up quickly and looked over at Colin's bed, but it had been blocked from his view by the high curtains Harry had changed behind yesterday.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Belated Binge Podcast. I'm Zach, your host, revisiting some of the most iconic series in recent memory that I was incredibly late on, like our current binge of Harry Potter, where despite being the same age as movie Harry, I didn't read this series through until my mid-20s. That's the belated part. Now, we're going back chapter 2 at a time, picking it apart, deep diving what's on the page, speculating about what isn't, particularly Dumbledore's role in his master plan. What did he know? When did he know it? And the motivations guiding the story. And of course, infusing as much sarcasm as humanly possible. That's the binge part. Together, they make the belated binge, and today we continue our reread of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets with Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. But before we can get into it, 1, this podcast will have spoilers. This series wrapped up in 2007. If you haven't read them by now, you're even later than I was. 2, this podcast will also have adult language. You can buy them in the kids section of the bookstore, but I didn't read them till I was a grown-ass man. Huge shout out to our free elf patron, Alex Swetlin. And I gotta say, I'm quite tickled to introduce our guests. Yes, plural. 2 guests at one time. We've not done 2 at once on this podcast or anywhere for that matter. I've been working on booking these 2 since the podcast's inception, and they've finally given in to my badgering and annoying messages. I believe our email chain has 68 messages in it back and forth, and most of those are me saying, please come on my podcast. And they finally agreed to slum it with me today. They are the hosts of the Just Keep Rolling podcast, comparing and contrasting the Harry Potter books and movies on a weekly basis. There's inappropriate jokes, there's puns, there's cursing. It's everything I love in a podcast. I could go on and on, but the whole point of inviting them on was to let them talk. So, y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen from, as Zach said, Just Keep Rolling.
And I'm Katie. I just wandered in off the street. I actually don't know really what I'm doing here, but it's good to be here.
She knows exactly what she's doing here. I have her tied to the chair.
Again, yes.
Actually, it's teal duct tape this time.
It's and the zip ties.
And the zip tie.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Everything in my house is teal, so that's just kind of a thing.
Currently, her pants are teal.
It's true. They are.
That. Yeah.
Is that on purpose?
Yes. Can you guess my favorite color?
Red.
She is a Gryffindor.
I am a Gryffindor, so that's not inaccurate either.
And the wall behind you's red.
Yeah, because it's my Gryffindor wall.
So not everything is teal.
Well, each wall is a house color in this room.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, I can only see two walls.
Yeah,
I got the Gryffindor vibe.
You can see Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, and then across from the Gryffindor wall is the Ravenclaw, and next to me, across from the Hufflepuff, is the Slytherin wall. Mm-hmm. I actually tried to have it set up where when we were recording, I'd be in front of the Ravenclaw. Why would I be in front of the Ravenclaw wall? I'm a Gryffindor. I'd be in front of the Gryffindor wall, and Katie would be in front of the Slytherin wall, but the table was bigger than I thought it was going to be, and we had to arrange it differently, so she actually sits in the Hufflepuff Ravenclaw corner.
I feel like that should be a thing in the castle. This is the Hufflepuff Ravenclaw corner. Right. This is the Gryffindor wall. I don't know.
I do want to say that we actually would have loved to have recorded with you sooner, but scheduling is fucking difficult.
Yeah.
It is. It just makes for better theater if I pretend I was begging the whole time.
I mean, you were.
I was.
It does make us sound more in demand,
yes.
so I'm not hating that.
Tell us everything about your podcast.
So like you already said, it is a book movie compare and contrast podcast, and as you can probably tell, I say that phrase a lot. It
couple
just rolls
times.
off the tongue now.
Mm-hmm. Much like your cat's name.
Yes. Well, that one sometimes I get a little tongue-tied with. I just got a cat that I named Professor Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards, and Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot, but we just call him Al.
Okay.
So yeah, rolls off the tongue.
She's not extra at all, trust me.
No, I'm gathering that. I tried to do not the whole thing, but just his whole name on an episode one time off the cuff, and I mixed up Wulfric and Brian. I think I put them in the wrong order.
It's easy to do.
I think that was the mistake
that was actually a tiebreaker trivia question at one of the trivia nights that we went to, and I didn't know the full title. I only knew his full name. But thankfully, the guy I was competing with only knew his full name, too, and I could write faster. So we still ended up winning, but the extra in me made me have to memorize it. Mm-hmm. And as I was working on memorizing it, I was like, the next cat I get, this is what I'm naming him, because that's just the whole bit. Like, I literally just call him Al or Albie, but that's his name. Anyway, back to our podcast.
Moving on. Kind of derailed there.
Yeah, which we do sometimes.
Yeah.
I try to keep us on task because we take a book chapter, although lately, because we're in Order of the Phoenix, they're longer, and sometimes it's just half of a book chapter. And the corresponding film scenes, if they exist. And we just, like, dive right in. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I don't have a whole lot to do lately.
But we just dive right in, and we just nitpick. Like, here's the details of what's in the book, here's what the movie left out, or here's what the movie added. Because sometimes that happens too.
Here's what the movie did completely differently.
And it's almost always worse.
It is.
Yeah.
And I even though I'm the nerdy type that loves to compare books to movies, like any book that has been turned into a movie or a TV show, I love to do this. So even though I love that, I still always prefer the books to the movies. And I never thought I liked the Harry Potter movies that much. Like, I loved them, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But diving into them the way that I have been for this podcast has really given me a new appreciation for them.
See, I came into this the exact opposite. I hated comparing the books to the movies.
Because it makes the movie suck.
Yeah, it ruined it for me. I remember when I first got into Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone was already out, the movie, and I had seen that and I was kind of like, whatever. And then once I got into it, I had read Sorcerer's Stone so much later that I was like, okay, this is different from the movie, but I'm not really like harping on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, no, I gotta read the second book because the second movie's coming out, so I gotta read the second book like right now. And I read it right before I went to see the movie, and I hated the movie. I was like, this movie, you know what? Fuck this movie, man. Because where was this? And where was this? And I didn't like this. And it just took me away from the whole thing. So from then on, I was like, you know what? I'm putting like a good kibosh on reading the books for like a couple months prior to seeing a movie. And then she came in and dragged me into this.
Kicking and screaming.
Again, zip tied to the chair. I can't get up. That's just, I mean, I like it, but that's not the point. Like, that's not the issue here.
There's an inappropriate joke in there somewhere.
I think that was the
they're all
inappropriate
inappropriate.
joke.
No, I'm with you. I have deliberately, and granted, I'm in the second book at this point. But my whole plan has deliberately been to not follow the same chapter by chapter formula that a lot of podcasts do, where they finish a book and then they immediately do the movie. Mm-hmm. If I did that, all I would do is shit on the movie the whole time. So my thought process was to maybe do like the movies as their own like little canon and kind of go through them that way.
Yeah.
That's how I
Still
had to
shit
see
on
it.
them, but not only shit on them.
Yeah.
And we definitely shit on them.
Oh, yeah.
But we also make it a point to find the things that we love about them, because there truly are things that the movies did phenomenally, namely with the casting and then a lot of the visuals.
And comparatively to the later movies, the first two
spot on.
movies were really actually very close.
Yeah, they're like spot on.
Yeah.
They definitely left things out that I would have liked to see.
Oh, don't get me wrong,
However,
yeah. We are fully able to find shit we don't like.
minimal was changed.
They mostly seem to be for pacing purposes
Yeah.
in the first two. The rest of them, they literally just fucked shit up sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
But they're still good. Like you can watch the movies and go, damn, this was a good movie. I enjoyed watching this movie. I needed to read the books to know what the fuck was going on once we get to a certain point in the movies, but like they're enjoyable to sit and watch. Somebody on a different podcast, plug for them, The Fox and the Foxhound, one of the hosts who's going through the books for the first time right now, and they're almost done. The way he put it when they did one of those episodes was, these are great popcorn movies. But if you're going to if you're going to try to hold them up to the books that they're created off of as adaptations, nope.
No.
You can't do it. Yeah.
Nope.
Well, I always say that Harry Potter, specifically Harry Potter trivia, but just Harry Potter in general, is my drug of choice. So I actually live for getting to watch the Harry Potter movies with people who haven't read the books, because when they're confused, they ask me questions and I get to talk about it.
That's how I ended up reading the books, because I would put the movies on like when they were doing a marathon on Sci-Fi or Freeform or whatever
Like
stupid
everyone
channel
does,
had
yeah.
them. Yeah, and I knew my wife liked Harry Potter enough, and if I had my way, I would have sports on the TV 100% of the time, particularly basketball, no matter the time of year. And I knew she didn't want that, so I tried to find like a something that I could put up that I was like, oh, these movies are actually, they're pretty good. I don't know what the hell's happening, so I'm like asking her questions, and her canned response became, "You'd have to read the books. It's better in the books." And I heard that about 1,047 times and decided, okay, I'm gonna read these damn books and know what the hell is happening in this series that I'm like, this is pretty decent on my TV, but I don't know what's this weird tingly spidey sense thing that's ringing in his ears. I don't understand. Like, this doesn't make sense. But that was kind of how I did, and that's why I was like 25, and I finally went through the whole series while I was doing very mundane, busy work at my job at the time, because I was an entry-level, like, data nerd in marketing. So you can imagine
You had a lot going on.
a lot of numbers and a lot of spreadsheets on some days.
Woo.
Yeah, so these were a welcome distraction.
Say, how on earth were you able to concentrate with all that information going on?
I probably just fucked up clients' money, to be honest. But we're not going to talk about that, just in case there are any current clients that are listening. I got much better, and I only pay attention to work while I'm working now.
Oh, this was clearly like 5 years ago.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
5-6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So,
As we like to say, we'll just keep rolling.
Right.
yeah, and you can say that anytime you want on this podcast. That's okay. So, whenever I have a guest or guests on, I like to let them pick the chapter. Y'all chose this one. Why?
It gives us an opportunity to make fun of Lockhart.
And Justin
When?
Finch Fletchley.
Ding.
But mostly Lockhart, because we call him the appendix of the wizarding world. He is just so very useless. He's there, you don't really know what for.
Yeah. And eventually, you just gotta get rid of him before he fucks shit up.
And when he's gone, you don't even really miss him.
No.
I am embarrassed how long it took me while listening to that episode to figure out why the hell you were calling him the appendix. Because I think at first I thought you were saying appendage. And I'm like, what is happening?
He's the dick of the wizarding world.
Just useless flopping around. I don't get it.
I mean, that works too.
I mean,
anything
yeah.
else you want to plug or anything before we jump into the actual episode?
Actually, one of the things that I also really like about this is it's when we already knew that Harry could talk to snakes, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But this is when they start to really show its significance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like really like they planted that seed in the beginning of Sorcerer's/Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like, oh, by the way, this is significant.
Yeah. Which they tend to do a lot.
Yeah.
And I dig that.
So it's just
Yeah.
when you told us what chapters were available, and I was like, ding. Dueling Club, that's ours. We want it. Make it happen.
And we did. So
Here we are.
In case you're obliviated or you got your Hogwarts letter late, last chapter was chapter 10, The Rogue Bludger. Lockhart continued to be an annoying douchebag, but he wasn't useless. His extreme arrogance and lack of awareness of reality surrounding him allowed the trio to get the book that they needed to make Polyjuice Potion, which they do in a girl's bathroom that's haunted by our friend that we met at Nick's party, moaning Myrtle. And then Quidditch happened. The match never matters, but there's always plot impact. This time, a bludger, bewitched by an elf, breaks Harry's arm. Lockhart makes it worse by removing all the bones because he's an idiot, which lands our boy in the hospital wing, where the plot needed him to be, so that he could learn about Dobby's attempt to save him, going very, very poorly again. That the Chamber of Secrets was opened before, this is not the first time, and that Colin Creevey was a victim who had been petrified. But hey, at least he can't be annoying in a coma, right?
Well, I mean, did you see the way he was frozen with that camera up?
That's fair. It's probably a bad joke.
No. He's got a very punchable face. I'm just saying.
Oh, poor Colin.
It's punchable in a cute way. Maybe?
Well,
I don't
yes, of course.
know. Before we can move into this week's chapter, we need to close the book on last week and recap our...
Expecto. Plot change-o.
This is the part of the show where we theorize on what we would expect to change in our story if we made one small tweak to the plot of the chapter we're covering. In last chapter, I asked, what if Lockhart wasn't so useless and didn't remove all the bones in Harry's arm? What if it was mended properly? I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but ibu.exe, ibou.exe, on Instagram chimed in, saying I'd say Harry would have to suffer much more. He wouldn't have stayed in the hospital wing overnight, and when Colin Creevey is petrified, he would take the blame all over again. From my perspective, this was just to get Harry to the hospital wing, which was key for three things. Harry seeing Colin petrified, Dobby coming to give us more plot-splaining, and Dumbledore confirming that this has happened before and that Hogwarts isn't safe. So, if Harry doesn't need his bones regrown, he doesn't need to spend a night in the hospital wing. So how does he get these three bits of information? Well, one, Colin is easy. This is a school. Rumors fly around rampant. All it takes is one kid with a tummy ache to visit the nurse and catch a glimpse of Creevey, and the whole school knows by lunchtime. But what about the other two? Okay. It's story time, kids. So Harry's arm was just broken by the bludger, but he still caught the snitch. Because, Harry never loses Quidditch, if he's conscious. But it turns out Dumbledore was actually in attendance for this match. Did you know? I didn't know, but now I know. He hasn't missed a Gryffindor match since the first time Harry almost died when Quirrell tried to murder him in front of an entire school of witnesses while he was the literal center of attention. In retrospect, not the greatest plan. And just as Lockhart raises his wand to fix, air quotes, Harry's broken arm, Dumbledore puts a hand up to stop him. Allow me, Gilderoy. I'm most certain everyone here who has read your books is quite aware of your reported expertise on the matter. I happen to have quite an interest in healing, and I wonder if you might indulge me to assist in this instance. Even Lockhart knows not to try to overshadow Dumbledore. If nothing else, this dude signs his paycheck. So, Dumbledore fixes Harry's arm, well, properly. Afterwards, he invites Harry for a spot of tea to discuss his quite impressive snitch-catching skills. I seem to remember your father having a particular connection to a snitch himself. Carried it everywhere he went. I often wondered if he may have hidden a family heirloom inside. Dumbledore's a bit of an Easter egg layer himself. They're just rounding a corner to his office when Professor McGonagall rushes up to them. Professor Dumbledore, I'm quite sorry to interrupt, but I'm afraid there's Wow, I can't do an accent with her. There's a matter in which your presence is needed right away. Harry, great catch today. Now go back to your dormitory. I'm quite certain there's a gathering of Quidditch fans who await your arrival. I did a lot of dialogue in this. Okay, so of course Harry is a meddler and too perceptive not to realize that this is a strange situation. There's no way he's going back to Gryffindor Tower. He follows at a distance, trying to remain out of sight. He witnesses the scene as Professor McGonagall shows Colin Creevey being petrified to Dumbledore. He overhears the conversation, same as he did in the hospital wing in the real story, and just as he goes to back away around the corner, he's startled. There's Dobby. And we get the story from the elf as well. What do you think? How'd I do?
I think that's pretty spot on. That would work.
I like it a lot, yeah.
Especially the part where Harry meddles.
It definitely meddles.
That definitely tracks.
Yeah.
Honestly. An excellent Dumbledore impression, by the way.
Thank you.
Much better than your McGonagall.
It was yeah. McGonagall.
I've literally
had some
never
issues.
practiced either one, so that was the first time for both. And I'm
Well
glad
done.
that one of them went less horribly than the other. Any
here's
thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, go.
Here's what I was thinking. If Lockhart can actually heal bones, or if Dumbledore were to step in and do it instead, is he still an appendix, or does he like become a spleen or a gallbladder maybe?
I'm
those
still
have
going
a use?
appendix. A gallbladder?
Definitely.
A spleen, yes, for sure. Gallbladder, you can live without.
You can, but it has
does
a function.
have a purpose. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was going for ones that you
Like
could,
I don't have mine, but
which is why it has a purpose, but it's
Yeah.
not necessary. That's why I wasn't gonna fully upgrade him to like intestines or something. He's not a heart. He's certainly not a brain. No
Yeah.
courage either. So
no.
He's the Tin Man. Sorry, let me
not
flip
any
my
of
phone around here. I've tried to do this before by getting the guest on the laptop in the shot. It just doesn't ever work. So it's time to do the thing where Here we go. This is the right button. I'm a terrible millennial. This week's Expecto Plot Changeo question from Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. What if Lockhart lets Snape vanish the snake properly? Harry never had to use Parseltongue in front of the class. How could that have changed the events in this chapter? What about the future? Let me know your thoughts to be included in the next episode. You can let me know here or by leaving a voicemail on my website, belatedbinge.com. So, this little video that I just took, which did save successfully. Look at that. It'll be shared across social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can respond with your thoughts on any of those platforms, as I mentioned in the video, or by leaving a voicemail on my website, belatedbinge.com. And if you don't like the sound of your own voice, there's also a contact form that you can use as well. Let's dive into the events of this week's chapter with
Priority. Incan chapter.
We've reached the point where our wands connect. Not the tips, just the streams. So we can recap what went down in the chapter that we just read. This week, chapter 11, The Dueling Club starts with the weekend, because nobody learns anything or ever goes to class in these books that's about school. The blazing winter sunlight description could kind of make you forget for a second that Harry's actually in a hospital, having to just regrow all the bones in his arm, which is definitely an experience that should be followed by the nurse lady coming in and moving it all around and bending your fingers and all of that shit. And Madame Pomfrey nonchalantly tells him all his bones are back and just sends him on his way. And that's when he runs into Percy, who's super chipper coming out of the library. Did Percy literally just get laid? Like, that's what happened here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was
I'd like to hope that it happened at least once in his poor little life.
little bit of
Just, you know.
library nookie.
One might call that
It was a book nookie.
I feel like that inference
my
is
God,
a
eat
layup.
shit.
Sorry. Okay, so Harry it's a comment from Percy about Ron hanging out in girls' bathrooms that makes Harry have his light bulb moment, his ding, and realize that's exactly where they are. So he finds Ron and Hermione in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, apparently scares the shit out of them. And the text mentions
At least they're in a bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Good place to be.
It mentions a splash. What do you think they dropped in the toilet? Because it's not said in the actual page.
I mean, clearly it's the shit that he just scared out of
Yeah.
her.
Obviously.
As they're sharing a stall? Are they that
They're
close
really
yet?
close
You know
friends.
what? Don't kink shame.
These are 12-year-olds just like sitting in a stall together, stirring a pot. One of them sitting on it. I don't know.
Maybe it was the stir.
The ladle.
Yeah. My
I don't
headcanon,
know. They use spatulas?
a spatula. Do they have to flip any of the ingredients?
No, I'm like a rubber spatula. Like scraping the end.
Like a
scraping
baking
the-
spatula.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm not talking a flipper.
There's two kinds of spatulas?
Oh, honey.
You have the cooking spatula that you slide under the meats to flip it over or whatever. And then you have a baking one, which is used for scraping the sides of the bowl to make sure you get all of the
Yeah.
ingredients mixed in.
I never knew that was called a spatula. I think we have about 17 in my kitchen. I just
What did you
use
think they were
them.
called?
I have about 20
didn't.
teal ones.
I didn't. I think we have a red one, and we have a white one, and we have, I don't know, another one.
I do
that I
have a
can't
white
remember.
one with a G and a giraffe on it that Katie got me when Len and I got married and my last name became Ganley.
That was a very thoughtful gift.
You know what? I was at Williams-Sonoma. I had to buy everything anyway.
I was with her too, and she snuck bought it without me noticing.
Nice.
She was supposed to keep me from buying shit. It didn't work.
My wife has a similar skill with the bill at a restaurant. She can just go pay it, and nobody knows that she even
Nobody
left
has
the
any idea.
table.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
She's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Speaking of spatulas, though, my headcanon is it's a sandwich that Ron brought with him because he's always eating.
Do you think he
And
left
now-
it in the toilet?
I'm
Oh yeah,
gonna hope.
now
it fell
it's
in there.
awfully soggy, and especially if one of them was just taking like you're not eating. So Harry fills him in on Dobby's visit and that the chamber has been opened before. Ron's convinced that the heir is Draco. At this point, is this take crazy? Specifically, the theory that Lucius like opened it first and then now has taught Draco how or whatever. Is that nuts?
I mean, I don't think it's like. I think it's somewhat plausible, especially what we know of Draco. Like, we know he's a dick. We don't know how much of a dick he is yet.
He's a Nazi von douchebag, the
Yeah.
second, if you will.
Yeah, as we like to call him.
That is what we call him. I think it is plausible. However, I feel like had Nazi von douchebag the first, Lucius Malfoy, been the one to open it the first time, like they were speculating, they probably would have heard about it sooner because people they knew were at school then.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And for me, I would think that the person would be more stealthy if they were doing this than what Draco has been. He's been like way too boastful with his racism to be the actual person that's committing the stuff. Like, you don't go right enemies of the air beware on the wall and then come to the scene and go, you'll be next, mudbloods.
I mean, have you watched a crime story? Like, that's all they do is they come back to the original scene.
They come back, but don't they usually kind of just observe
Not
the
necessarily.
handiwork?
I've seen my share of Law and Orders.
Most of them aren't 12 years old, though.
There's that too.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. All right,
I
so
mean, you'd make a good point though, because he did seem like
yeah, if you want to get away with it, you don't.
Didn't know. Yeah.
He definitely
Yeah.
seemed more like he was getting off on someone else's work as opposed to masturbating.
Yeah, he was a fanboy.
Yeah. I don't like how you phrased it. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah.
But I did that just for you.
Yeah, I have limits, Ellen. Jeez.
Do
I'm
you?
respectable.
Right? Really? Sure.
I'm
Let's just
moving
keep
on.
rolling.
Moving on.
Okay, so now the whole school has heard about Colin being petrified and rumors are going crazy, and we get another Ginny update on how she's not doing very well with it. We get mention of the twins trying to cheer her up in ways that only they can by essentially trying to scare her and shit. Thinking back, if you can even remember the first time that you read through this, should we have picked up on these Ginny hints that we've been getting, or are these just actual, like, masterful Easter eggs for later reveal?
I feel like I picked up on them, but I look for things like that.
I think when I first read the book, I was still like, "Oh, these are just fun children's books. They're not going to be like in depth." And even though I was like surprised as hell about Quirrell and Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was still kind of looking for the obvious.
Like, every time something happens, every time someone gets petrified, they made a point to mention how Ginny was affected by it.
Yeah. And it's something that went over my head the first time. Like, it didn't start piecing together until much, much later.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten, really, until doing the podcast, how early they actually started in the book.
I think in my head, I just brought it down to, like, she had nerves. It was her first year. She was the youngest of the Weasleys, so she had a lot, like, going on.
Now, my husband hates watching movies or listening to audiobooks on car rides with me because I look for things like that and then I speculate out loud about them, and then he hates spoilers. So if I happen to predict something that he thinks makes sense, it ruins it for him. But I look, like, literally that's how I read books. I devour them. I inspect them. I get my little magnifying glass out and I look for things that I think almost seem unnecessarily out of place and think they might be significant.
That's annoying.
I know, I'm really annoying. I'm sorry.
I think annoying isn't the word I was going to go for. I was thinking exhausting. That's how I watch TV, but, like, I don't read. Like, this is literally the only book series that I read, which is funny because I'm now doing a podcast on it. Spoiler, if we do another series of this podcast, it's going to be TV. So we also get a mention of this black market that's spurring these transactions taking place at Hogwarts. But instead of weed and Adderall, the kids are peddling these, like, fake lucky talismans and other nonsense that's supposed to keep you safe.
Probably some gillyweed too. But.
Definitely some gillyweed. Mm-hmm.
Very fair.
Most of it,
but if that
most
was
of his Dumbledore stash, I'm sure.
Yeah. See, I remember, like, when I was a kid, Pokemon cards were a thing, burnt CDs that people put together that they'd be, like, selling under the desk.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, let's not incriminate anyone or condone other types of transactions that might be a thing. But can you think of any of these, like, weird shit that people were, like, selling or trading or whatever in the hallways that was, like, technically teachers didn't want you doing this shit, but, like, you know, you're not gonna do 25?
So we're a little older than you.
A little bit.
I don't know if you remember these, but Pogs.
Yes.
Pogs.
Yes, Pogs.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, unless, of course, you knew somebody that was selling, you know, pine needles and pencil shavings and trying to pass that off.
As what?
Drugs? Gillyweed?
Anything.
Duh.
Yeah, anything. Baking soda. What do you want from me?
I mean, gin is made out of pine needles, but so there's that.
Is it really?
Well, kinda. It's made from the juniper berry, which has pine needle leaves on it. So I know a little too much about that.
I was today's years old when I learned that.
Give it time, and you'll understand exactly why she knows that,
Yes.
actually.
You will find out
Okay.
later.
We'll end up getting into that with the character that you want to talk about.
Nice. So our trio signs up to stay at Hogwarts during the holidays, and so does Malfoy, because plot. And they have a goal of using their polyjuice to interrogate him, but it's only half done. And they don't have everything they need to finish it. So now we're planning a heist to steal from Snape's stash. So they pull this off, right? The recap and the gist is Harry threw a firework into Goyle's potion, and then when Snape wasn't looking and it caused a distraction, Hermione sneaks into Snape's office, steals the it's a simple plan. I still don't know what Ron's contribution to it was, but like what do you think about how they pulled this off and this came together?
I think it was a lot of dumb luck, honestly.
It was also a lot of dumb.
That too, yeah.
Like, that was a
Yep.
very, very dumb plan.
Yeah. I mean, that could have gone so wrong in about 87 different directions.
And I know in the chapter, Harry thinks that deliberately causing mayhem in Snape's potions class is like poking a sleeping dragon in the eye.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that it's dumb.
Oh yeah.
So he goes for a firework, like the most obvious. Like, he did not just poke that dragon in the eye. He was just like,
He shot a firework at it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going with kids' book. Anyway, as likely as it was, the plan worked and they got the shit that they needed.
It worked
now-
because plot armor.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. And that has been so incredibly poignant and obvious in these first couple of books that I think that the later books get better about like hiding the plot convenience a little bit in nuance and story. Some of the shit in these couple having now picking it apart and looking for this stuff because sarcasm and podcasting kind of go together for me.
Well, yeah.
What?
Like, I knew these two were for kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had almost forgotten or, like, set aside some of this, like, oh, this is literally only happening because we need this other thing to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff doesn't, like I mentioned a minute ago, Quirrell literally trying to kill Harry in front of everyone.
Yeah.
He had a whole school year and a whole lot of dark corners of that castle. And he was a teacher.
He was a
All he had to
teacher.
do was say, hey, stay after
Arrange
class,
an
murder.
accident. Arrange
Yeah,
an accident
like-
in your defense against the dark arts class, dude. Do you
Yeah,
know how
so
many
much of this stuff
opportunities
is-
I have to injure kids in my classroom? I mean, I don't take them, but they're there.
And especially a place
Yeah.
like Hogwarts where literally death is around every corner. Like,
Right, like this. And so I will call it out. I will just let it go as plot. And we move on, but some of this stuff is fucked. So now it's time for Dueling Club. And as they wonder aloud who's going to be teaching, you already know who the answer is going to be. Katie, can you do the honors with this one?
can everybody see me? See me? Can everybody? Excellent.
Essence of douchebaggery himself.
Yes.
All of it.
Hermione mentioned that Flitwick was a dueling champion. Why is he not actually here? In
Because he
any
knew
way?
Lockhart was going to be involved. He was like, fuck that noise. Fuck, I'm short enough. I'm not getting some other part of me blown off. That's not happening.
Yeah.
He did not want to deal with that train wreck, and I am 100% positive that Snape wanted to be there to make it worse.
I don't know. Snape felt so... His part in it felt so begrudging.
I bet you anything Dumbledore made him be part of it.
That's what I'm
We-
saying.
We may or may not get into that in about 5 seconds. But we don't get a master dueler to teach the children how to duel, of course. We get a double douche with Lockhart and Snape. Also, here's where that comes in. I want to know, what do you think Dumbledore's reaction was when Lockhart came to him with this request?
Okay, fine, but Snape's gonna babysit you.
Yeah, like my headcanon is that Lockhart comes up and Dumbledore is in a conversation with Snape. And here comes Lockhart all pompous and shit, interrupting them as only he can. And, I want to start and Dumbledore just kind of like laughs and says, sure, go for it. And then he looks at Snape and goes, go babysit that and let me know how it turns out.
And Snape just whines about it. Like, but I don't want to. And he's like, Severus, you've always wanted to teach defense against the dark arts. Here's your opportunity.
Yeah, and it's all tongue-in-cheek, and he's doing it with a laugh. Like, what he really wants, I am convinced that he hired Lockhart to prove how inept Lockhart was to these children. If you want to hear more about that, it's in another podcast. But he's like smirking the whole time, and Snape's looking at him like, you fucking old man. And that's how it went.
Yeah,
so
now that you say that, I kind of think that I want to believe that Lockhart may have said something in one of his books slightly disparaging towards Dumbledore. And this is Dumbledore's just like super subtle revenge.
See, I think Dumbledore has always felt that Lockhart was full of shit in his books, but I think he kind of more recently started to look into it a little bit, and he started piecing together like what was actually going on.
See, I don't
think that and so I'll give the Cliff Notes version of the theory. I don't think Lockhart's been wiping these people's memories like what ends up happening to him later in this book. I think he's been doing more the Tom Riddle and like planting just like a little small tweak in them to where like they remember what went down or whatever, but they somehow remember Lockhart being the one to do it and not themselves or so. So like it's more subtle, it's more like, and it's not as traceable. It's not as blatantly obvious. Like, hey, a brand new book came out, and here's another person in St. Mungo's that doesn't remember whatever's happened in their lives and who they are. And when Dumbledore finally kind of caught wind of it, he was like, all right, this guy wants to teach, and he's being a total shithead. I'm going to use him to teach the children what not to be. And what not to do.
I think that there could definitely be something in that. Of course, we also have to look at the fact that Dumbledore was having a hell of a time hiring people for that position since they never made it more than a year.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that's why he sought Lockhart out. Because he was like, well, he's not going to last more than a year.
Exactly.
So.
But I also think that Dumbledore knows all and probably had an inkling of what was going on the moment he started publishing books. I don't know if Lockhart went to Hogwarts, but I would imagine he did.
Well, he was a Ravenclaw, wasn't he?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, that's what they say.
They had to have known from then that he was an absolute appendix.
Yeah.
There's no way he was, like, better in school and graduated and all of a sudden lost all function.
I don't know. I mean, I did, but... That's because I lost the structure in my life. What do you want from me, Ellen? Damn.
Yeah, so anyways, useless as he is, we get proof of it in our example duel. And as Ron said, wouldn't it have been so nice if the two could just finish each other off? But
That
alas,
sounded wrong.
1, 2, 3, and despite Lockhart, just got that one. Moving on. 1, 2, 3, finish at the same time. Despite Lockhart being blow hard, Snape gets the better off of him. Ellen, do you want to take this particular one?
I feel like you're doing this to me on purpose, honestly.
Blow hard.
Everything.
You set it up.
When Lockhart's just like, it was a good idea doing the Expelliarmus charm, but it was pretty obvious. That's what you were going to do, and only too easy for me to stop you had I wanted to. I just thought we should show them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I have two questions. One, what spell was Lockhart actually planning to use in this scenario?
That is a really good question. I have never, ever, I mean, probably a memory charm, because it's all he knows how to do.
You would think.
Honestly, he was probably just decoratively waving his wand,
Hoping something came out.
waiting for Snape to do something so that he could say that line. He practiced that ahead of time. He was ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
He is.
But here's the thing. Lockhart, even when he tries to do the right spell, it's the wrong spell.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just like hoping like, I'm just going to say a Latin word and we're just going to see what the fuck happens. Because
That's fair.
So far that's caused panic and demise everywhere I go. So let's just keep up with that.
Right.
Why not, right?
But no, 100% Lockhart is purely decorative.
Yes.
What about Snape? What do you think he wanted to use?
Avada Kedavra.
Crucio.
Yeah, that's pretty much all right. So now we're putting kids into pairs for new school sanctioned fight club, and Snape has to be a dickhead. Mm-hmm. He splits Ron and Harry. He stops Harry from pairing from Hermione too. Instead, he puts Malfoy and Harry together. Ron with Finnegan, Seamus Finnegan, and Hermione gets Millicent Bulstrode. Mm-hmm. Did anyone else get this little bullying work from Snape, do you think, afterwards? Or was it literally just these three? Like, did he go around the rest of the room and start like, oh, no, your friends? No, fuck you. You're going to go with this part. Or is
Neville
it just them?
Because if he was going to bully anyone, I forget. Who was Neville?
That was my
Neville
thought, too,
was-
but Lockhart had already put him in a pair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, the books have only ever shown us Snape picking on the trio and Neville. We have never seen any evidence of him actually picking on anyone else. And that could just be because it was unimportant to the plot. It could also be that he just liked to pick on the ones that triggered him the most.
Yeah, I mean, it's told from Harry's perspective, so I always try to keep that in mind, too. Like, when people give Dumbledore shit on the internet about how he never gave points to anybody else and he only gave them to Harry, and it's like, well, this story was told from Harry's perspective. He only sees Dumbledore, like, a handful of times a year. Like, what was Dumbledore doing the whole rest of the time in relation to the children? He probably gave points to people that we didn't see all the time. So I guess what I'm thinking is,
Harry is also really fucking oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been happening right in front of his face. We
Worst
wouldn't know
narrator
either.
ever.
So self-involved, honestly.
Yeah, so I have to imagine that he's at least being a dick to the rest of the room, too, that isn't in Slytherin House. But I don't know that anybody gets... I don't think anybody gets as personal bullying as Harry and Neville specifically. And then the scene with Hermione that happens is just...
But like I said, the ones that trigger Snape the most.
Yeah.
The man needed a lot of therapy. All of the therapy.
Or just a job where he's working with children. So that's perfect. So the first round of dueling goes exactly how you expect when telling a group of children to practice fighting each other, but not what to actually practice. They said disarm. Nobody actually taught them the incantation, the wand motion, nothing.
Just do what I did. What? Drop my wand?
Yeah, that's coming. I mean, of course you don't teach them what to do. They're just going to start throwing punches. And in Millicent Bulstrode's case, that's literal. Being from Harry's perspective, we see Harry and Malfoy's exchange. Malfoy cheats, going on 2. We have a tickle jinx, a dancing spell, magic fighting that you expect from a book written about and for children. And then we have round 2. Harry and Malfoy, chosen as a demonstration pair after Snape bullies Neville. And much like the first round, they're not told how to block spells. They're just told that's what they're supposed to be doing. And Harry's shown how to drop his wand. And then, okay, kids, fight! What was Draco told?
Kick his ass, Seabass.
Yeah, he and Snape have this little huddle, and he produces a snake. Did Snape tell him to do that?
Well, I remember when we did this chapter, I remember the theory went that was basically the first thing that Slytherins learn when they get sorted, is how to produce a snake.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. I'd never thought of that.
It just feels right to me to say that that's their initiation kind of thing. Like, okay, this is the first thing you're gonna learn.
And if that's the case, in their little cuddle puddle huddle, Snape told Malfoy to initiate him into Slytherin.
Yeah.
Huh.
There we go.
I kind of like that. But then, why did he so quickly offer to vanish the snake?
Probably because he didn't want to cause mass panic. Snape's a lot of things, but I don't think he's deliberately putting children in danger. He'll bully them.
Okay.
But he likes his cushy job.
Well,
He's not going to completely fuck it up.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been a really good excuse, though. Like, did you see the snake? I couldn't get rid of the snake. Fuck, I didn't mean for all those kids to die.
I'm positive that Dumbledore knows he could have gotten rid of the snake.
It all just happened so fast, man.
Severus.
Fair enough. So
50 points from Slytherin.
So now, of course, the scene we all know extremely well by now. Instead of letting Snape take care of the snake, Lockhart insists on continuing to prove his inadequacies and his floppy wand. He flings the snake in the air, it gets real good and pissed off, lands in front of Justin Finch-Fletchley, and it's ready to make him a snack. Harry instinctively approaches.
Which is funny, because Justin Finch-Fletchley is not a snack.
No. No, sir.
No, he's a full course meal.
I mean, his head is big enough to be one. That's giant fucking head on that kid. Man.
Imagine with like an apple in his mouth, he's just laying on a platter.
Oh, Lord. With his
So Harry...
his big old Jay Leno chin and...
Yeah. Yeah, how many generations removed is he?
Oh, he's like, he's direct descendant. I'm sorry. That chin doesn't skip a generation.
Does that come with 3 exotic cars? Because I would trade the chin for the cars.
See, but you gotta live with the chin forever. Cars will break down. Cars will let you down, man. They lose their value once they've been driven off the lot.
Immediately, unless you get the right cult following. Yeah.
So, I mean, no.
It's not worth it.
Nope.
Don't do it.
Not to have Uncle Jay? No? All right.
No.
So Harry instinctively approaches, tells the snake to leave him alone, and instead of being happy or grateful to not be dead, Justin's pissed, and Snape vanishes the snake in that order, which is something that I think is important. I don't know why, but I always imagined it the other way around. And maybe it's because, isn't that how the movie scene goes? Snape.
Whoa. Holy, you okay?
Oh, my
Holy
goodness.
fuckity-fuck.
What if Dumbledore planted Snape there to have Snape tell Malfoy to produce that snake because Dumbledore suspected Harry was Parseltongue and wanted to confirm it?
Oh, shit!
I think my gasp was well worth it.
No, that still scared the fuck out of me. That was not nice. I buy it. However, but for him to do that, though, it outed him in front of, like, the majority of the school.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Dumbledore.
I feel like Dumbledore would have come up with a more subtle scene.
Harry, come to my office.
In
Look
order
at my
to
new
do that?
pet snake.
No.
Oh,
I mean,
dear.
I could totally see him wanting to, if he had this suspicion going in, I could see him trying to set up something like this, but I think he would do it with not as many witnesses present because he knows the implications of Harry being able to talk to snakes.
See, that's what I'm
and
saying.
what's happening in the story at this moment. Like, he knows if he does this in front of the entire school, like he just fucking did, everybody's gonna think that he's the one going around and, like, trying to murder Muggle-born students.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to think he's the heir of Slytherin.
Yes, but it also could be one of Dumbledore's exercises of keeping Harry humble.
I mean, that's a big old slice of humble pie. I don't know about that.
I mean, is it worse than placing him with the Dursleys?
I mean, at least the Dursleys didn't make him an outcast from school. That shit stings.
Just life.
Psh, He got over that. It's fine.
And by the end, Harry was the hero.
And so I like where you're going. And this is exactly the kind of shit that I do on this podcast is like, what's Dumbledore's shit going on behind the scenes here? But for me, I don't think he had this suspicion. I think the events of this chapter are what give him the suspicion of the connection between Harry and Voldemort and that potential Horcrux inside. I think because he knows damn good and well that Harry is not the heir of Slytherin. He knows he's not a descendant of Salazar Slytherin. Mm-hmm. So if he has this gift and he knows that Tom Marvolo Riddle actually was there a transference here? How does that happen? And then he starts going down the rabbit hole of eventually getting to Horcrux inside of Harry. I think that's more...
I think they could both work together.
They could. If he had the suspicion and he's like, here, let's try this to, expedite the...
Dumbledore is not exactly not flamboyant in his plans.
That was what?
Just think about it. It makes sense.
She's an art teacher, not an English teacher. Give it a second. I can follow you. I don't know that I think that this is how you would do it, but I can follow you or down that thing.
This is off the cuff. This is just random thoughts that came pouring through my brain and out my mouth. So
this is
very loudly, I might add.
I was excited.
This is why I host this show. This is literally what we're going for. So anyways, Ron and Hermione get Harry the fuck out of Dodge. And I struggle with this book as a whole, in comparison to the rest of the series. I personally think it's the weakest. I find it the least interesting. It's on a scale of good to great, but when others are great, something has to be good. And it just doesn't live up to the others. And this is one of the biggest reasons why for me. I hate this sequence because it lacks logic in any slightest sense of the form. So let's go through the series of events as they have taken place. Mm-hmm. Draco produces a dangerous snake, presumably to scare or harm. Lockhart
Why not both?
Right. Lockhart makes that snake very, very angry. Angry Snake is approaching Justin aggressively and appearing to be preparing to strike and make him dead. Harry steps forward and speaks Parseltongue. The snake relaxes and retreats from attacking Justin. Justin blames Harry before Snape has even gotten rid of the snake, and the whole school turns against Harry thinking he's an evil wizard. Simple cause and effect would show that Harry was helpful in this situation for Justin, and at the very least, he wasn't the reason that the snake was getting aggressive. Lockhart was. So even if Justin isn't grateful to Harry for saving his fucking life, he should at least be directing his anger at the people who put him in danger in the first place. Draco, who produced the snake, Lockhart, who pissed it off, not Harry. Okay, I'm done. Discuss.
Okay, your logic, well, it makes plenty of sense. That's just not how we do things here. That's not a thing we do, especially not 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds are like, holy shit, what just happened? I'm gonna blame the first person I see. And obviously the teacher has my back. The teacher wouldn't hurt me. So I'm gonna go with the dude that just hissed all over that thing. And, I'm gonna say that was freaky, and I don't like it. And fuck that noise.
Yeah, I think that was a case of adrenaline gone wrong, where he was just freaked out from nearly being attacked by a giant-ass snake, giant-ass nope rope, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you got this creepy kid that's kind of weird, even though he's also a little famous, literally running at the snake and hissing. No idea what he's saying. It just was a clusterfuck of confusion. And they went with the explanation that allowed them to blame someone that encompassed everything. Because they know Lockhart and Snape aren't going to be the ones opening the Chamber of Secrets.
Okay, so what about the other people that are present, right? All right, so a lot of people witnessed this.
Bah.
Power of suggestion.
I guess for me, it's how quickly, like, pretty much the whole school turns. And it's very clear in the movie how quick, like, the whole school is, like, against it. But, I mean, we get it mostly through the exchange with Ernie coming up.
Yeah.
But where were the students who were like, no, I was there. I know what Harry did was fucking freaky. But, like, that snake was about to kill this kid before he did it.
You
know
know
what I mean?
if
Like,
Luna Lovegood was at this dueling club, absolutely.
That wouldn't have helped his
Absolutely.
case.
No, it wouldn't have.
not
But
have helped
she
his
would have
case.
been one of those kids.
She
Yeah.
would have been.
Yeah, and she was there, right? She was there. We just hadn't thought of her as a character yet, so she wasn't
Right.
on the page.
She very well
But
could
you
have
know
been a
she was
first year
there.
at this dueling club.
Yeah, she's at the school. This is happening, and she's going to be there. She's probably been on Lockhart is full of shit since day one.
Yeah.
It's probably in the Quibbler somewhere that this dude, but the theory as to how is completely nonsensical. What if they had it right the whole time?
Actually, the band and Banshee was defeated by so-and-so and so-and-so, and but then they throw in some weird shit like, and also that person has 3 feet, and then the theory just goes to hell because you're like, well, that's stupid, so the rest of it is too.
Then it ends up in a whole different section of the rental shop.
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually, and I'm loving this thought, the Quibbler has been predicting that Lockhart has been stealing other people's stories through memory modification for the past decade, and nobody believes them. They think it's absolute nonsense.
Yeah. I would buy that.
The Quibbler is the national enquirer of the wizarding world, so yeah.
Yeah, it is. All right, we gotta get through the rest of this chapter. The trio have a huddle, and they talk about how rare talking to snakes is, how people are now going to think that Harry's a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, and of course they're right. Harry's all depressed. He wants to tell Justin what actually happened, and he comes across some Hufflepuffs talking shit, particularly Ernie Macmillan, because, all Hufflepuffs talk shit. And we get more of what I just roll my eyes at, as I just mentioned. But Harry doesn't go about this quite the right way. He pops up and he's like, he basically says the stupidest thing that you can say to a group that's discussing how an individual is hiding from you because he thinks that you're going to harm him. You don't just say, hey, I'm looking for that individual who's hiding from me because he thinks I'm going to harm him. But whatever. Ernie's reaction is to puff his chest out, huffing and puffing.
Pompously.
Yeah.
He's Hufflepuffin.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody thinks that the Hufflepuffs are the nice house and they're the, I don't know.
Oh, they'll whomp your ass.
Especially if you fuck with one of their friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Honey Badger don't give a fuck. Anyway, I don't even know what that's a reference to. And Ernie actually tries
Literal
to use...
honey badgers.
Ernie tries to use his blood purity as something to, like, stand on. Like, you can't hurt me. I'm a pureblood. Like, come on. This is fucking stupid. And...
Doesn't make you bulletproof.
And Harry's
kid.
like, why the fuck would I care?
Exactly. And his logic is like, you hate those muggles that you live with. You mean the ones that have abused him for his entire life? By your logic, these people would already have been made dead.
Right?
I grew up in a cupboard.
Yeah.
You try liking them.
I don't know.
They
if
are
I was-
satchels of assholes.
You think if I didn't, have this power, I wouldn't have used the shit out of it by now?
Exactly. I don't
On
know.
the Muggle
This
news
is...
somewhere, Muggle family eaten by snakes. Orphan boy, only one who survives.
Yeah, I just can't. This whole part of this section of it, to me, it's just stupid. And I have to, I don't know.
Nitpick.
Cognitive dissonance. This part didn't happen. We just skip ahead a few pages and Harry runs into Hagrid with a dead rooster, which seems random. Of course, it sort of has a plot purpose, but here's my question. Why is he carrying it around?
I think he brought it up to Dumbledore's office to show him.
But why is he carrying it around?
I think he just likes waving his cock around.
There it is. There it is. I mean, are we to believe that if Hagrid goes up to Dumbledore with the relationship that they have, he's not just going to believe him that roosters are being killed? He has to bring the carcass.
I mean, maybe.
Look!
It's entirely possible that Dumbledore told him to bring it because he's like, dude, I don't know what the hell's killing these things. There's no marks on them. There's no nothing on them. Like, or, you know.
There could be magic to trace something like that. And maybe, just maybe, Hagrid was heading to the kitchens next and they were going to have chicken dinner that night.
All right. I'll follow. Okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. That's fine. That's fine. We're doing a rooster autopsy in Dumbledore's office, and then we're having dinner. All right, cool. New headcanon solidified.
Waste not, want not.
Yeah, don't. If you hit a deer on the side of the road, take it home and
you got venison.
Field
Make
dress it.
jerky.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're walking away. Harry trips over something or someone in the hallway. Sees nearly headless Nick floating along, unconscious. I guess you would say. Is a ghost conscious? Whatever.
I think that's all they are.
Right? I was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah,
They are
that's
just
fair.
a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And that's what this podcast really is, just a stream of
spirit.
consciousness. Hopefully it has a little bit of spirit. But the whole point is he just tripped over Justin's body, right? Like,
Bad timing, man.
right. Because plot. Anyways, he could run away. He tries to do the Galliant thing, and he's like, I want to help, and he does nothing. He just stands there trying
Gryffindor!
to... Yeah, all I know is I'm a fucking Gryffindor right now, but I don't know what the hell is happening. What
Because
the
he
fuck?
is not a Ravenclaw.
He's definitely not.
And in the
Definitely
movie,
not.
he just tries to hold his fucking hand. The fuck was that?
I don't know, but we need the scene of everybody finding him at the scene. And thanks to Peeves, we get it because he goes around making a bunch of noise. Everybody comes out. Ernie talks more shit. Caught in the act! Ah! And Professor McGee's not having it with his bullshit. And then this doesn't have any place in the plot. But I imagine like a big box fan that Professor McGonagall like produces and conjures to like blow Nick down the hallway. And I want to know where she's plugging it in.
I mean,
Electronics don't work at Hogwarts.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just
Exactly.
like a hand fan.
Is that like...
Yeah. Like, they literally just, like, waft him down.
What about those, like, in the cartoons, you see they start fires in their, they got this, like, poofer thing. Like, it sucks up a bunch of air. That, I don't know, makes a little farting noise. Is it a whoopee cushion that she's using? Is really what I'm getting at, I think.
If it was Peeves, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, McGee takes Harry away. They're headed to Dumbledore's office, and that wraps up the chapter. Did we miss anything that you wanted to hit on?
I don't think so.
No.
I think
Okay.
we were overly thorough.
I think you're right, particularly the whoopee cushion, which takes us into our next segment, which is